And we are live. Look at that, everybody. It's our pre-show for today's SY0-601 Security Plus Study Group. Looks like things are working. Hey, chat room. I need to pop out the chat so I can see what's going on here. There they are. Let's bring the chat over to the other side of the screen. Much better. Much nicer. Oh, and everything's working, or sort of working, the way it's supposed to. Everything is sort of a working. It's a work in progress. So we'll make sure we got that. So let's check recordings. So everyone, we will be starting in about 9 minutes and 20 seconds with today's Security Plus study group. We've got streamings working. Let me adjust this so that I can see the cache. It's a rainy day here in Florida. Stormy day here in Florida. It's the summer in Florida, and that means storms. We've already had one roll through today, but we're still up and running. So we're going to stick with that. Hopefully that will stay in place. I think it will. I think we're in pretty good shape for the next couple of hours anyway. We'll see what's going on. What was I circling my finger over under the table with the red light going in the square? This thing, my Cylons. Not really Cylon, but those are my video recorders. They are recording. Here you can see them a little better here. It's just a place where I can have lots of lights and flashes, and it is SSDs that are inside of this Blackmagic video recorder. So I'm recording actually two. You can see two of them. It's hard to see. There's one just above this. There's two of them here that are recording, and I'm recording both the program side, which is what you see, and I'm recording the preview side, which is the side you don't see. It's sort of prepping because I can push a button and these two windows will switch, but you don't see it because we just switch the windows. But then I can switch back. You can kind of catch the movement as we go back and forth. Watch that real quick, and now it's, you can see it jump over there because of the delay. So that's that works out nicely. We are working it. Hey, chat room, how's everybody doing? We're doing Security Plus today. I always enjoy doing Security Plus. It's always a good one. Let's make sure. It's been a very unusual morning for setup. Normally, I set up a couple hours before just to make sure everything's working. Instead, 2 hours before, everything got shut down. I literally powered off, unplugged, and everything because we had some storms come through with lightning. And I have a whole system set up so when that happens, I can completely turn off and disconnect everything on the desk, gets disconnected from the rest of the world. So it's an air gap for everything. Power, network, nothing is connected to me physically. So that's what we did. So I wasn't able to normally set up. So I got a quick bite and then came in and then rushed to get everything working. So I'm hoping it does. I'm looking at my cameras. They look okay. I'm looking at recordings. It looks okay. You're here. That's fantastic. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We just need to now work towards getting it underway. And we got a few minutes left. We have about just over 6 minutes to go before we get started. Folks in the chat room already checking in from places like Notre Dame, Indiana. It may be Notre Dame, Indiana, though, here in the United States. We got Texas in the house. We got some folks checking in from San Antonio and Atlanta, Halifax, Nova Scotia, I'm sure. Thank you for being here. I'll let Mrs. Professor Messer know that Canada is checked in. It's always important. We've got, did I say Colorado? I saw that one go by. Lamont says, I took my test 2 weeks ago. That's not the right lower third. That's the right lower third. And passed. I skipped Network Plus and A+, jumped straight to Security, studied on and off for 5 months. Congratulations on your Security Plus. That's exciting. That's always good to start off the live stream with someone who has recently been certified with their Security Plus. Fantastic. Congratulations, Lamont. That is great news. Thank you for telling us so we can sort of enjoy it and celebrate it with you. We got folks checking in from Dallas and Botswana and St. Vincent. Hey, Mal, good to see you again. There's South Africa is here, Montgomery, Alabama. We got Nepal. Some folks checking in there. We've got lots of folks checking in today. Melbourne, Florida, and Tasmania, Australia. I don't know how that worked out, but there it is. There's Columbia, South Carolina. Haven't been there in a while. I need to get back to Columbia. I used to go all the time because it was part of my territory. So I would go there on business and hang out in Colombia. Some fantastic people in South Carolina, by the way. Nicest folks you'd ever want to meet. So, Scottsdale, Arizona is here. Thanks for being here. There's South Africa and Europe and Florida and Jamaica and Hawaii. And it's going too fast now. It's going way too fast for me to see what's going on. We'll have to kind of break it down. This is kind of the problem with doing this sometimes, is that it goes by so fast. And what's going by. So all these folks they're putting it in there. If you're in here, check out the chat, and you can see people from Nepal and Ohio and Westminster, Maryland, and Philadelphia, PA, and Nigeria and Poland and Worcester, and they're all everywhere. Greensboro, North Carolina, lot going on there. We got about 4 minutes until we get started. Everything looks good over here. Stream is good. Numbers look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Audio's fine. Everything's locked in. So we're here. Hey, Calgary. A lot of folks in Canada checking in today. Thanks for being here. Saudi Arabia is here. Washington, D.C. Lots going on. Acrotech says, I'm really worried about taking the 601. I keep putting it off. Failed twice last year. Well, you already know what to expect then. You already know the process, the procedure. Nothing's changed. Now you can focus on content. It's all about exam objectives, and we'll get you a little bit further along here today and give you some tips and things that might help you as well. It might help everybody. We'll see how it goes. We got 3.5 minutes before we get started. I have all of the things that I need in the studio. It's been a busy week. What a crazy week it has been. You don't get to see sort of behind the scenes of what happens here during the week. And I guess when I say it's been a busy week, I'm really talking about me sitting here and typing things. It's not like there's something to watch. I often thought I could set up a live stream just to see how many people I can put to sleep by watching me type. There's just no excitement going on. So we spend a lot of time here in the studio writing content. And that's really what I've been working on for the last number of months already. It takes quite a while to produce a course, and I'm in the middle of producing a course. So we're the very beginning phases of the course. I'm almost done creating the content, and then I got to wrap all the video stuff around it, start shooting videos. So there's always something right here. How can you prepare for the performance-based questions? Well, all you have to do is wait until we get started. We'll have a performance-based question first thing. On every live stream, we have a performance-based question that you've never seen before. So we'll definitely have a look at that. Easy to work through those. I know it is an unusual thing. Somebody was mentioning, I was having a conversation with another YouTuber type of person yesterday. We were just talking about different ideas and talking about the shorts, and figuring out, is shorts something I should be creating for you? I've got some content that would work perfectly for a 60-second short. But I'm just wondering if that's is it easier just to do the longer form videos for something like this? I go back and forth over this. I'll wake up in the morning and think, we're going to do shorts. And then I'll think about it more during the day and think, is that really a good use of anyone's time? I get it. But it would be interesting. Maybe we'll try some. Maybe I'll create like a chunk of them and we'll put them out there and we'll see what happens with them. So we'll have to see. Oh boy. The Security Plus exam is 90 minutes and a maximum of 90 questions. You're absolutely right. And your math is right. If you happen to get 90 questions, it's a minute per question. You're absolutely right. I suspect, though, and what most people find is that the video or the questions that you get are not 90 questions. You usually get fewer than 90. So it works out a little bit better than a minute per question, but not much better. You're not getting 45 questions. You're not getting 2 minutes per question. So just estimate about a minute. Yeah, I think that's a good number to have in your head so that you can kind of pace yourself going through. Some of these you'll be able to answer, boom, you're done. And so you can think, oh, I just saved 55 seconds. I just saved 45 seconds. I can apply that to the next question and kind of keep that going. Is this video going to be on my page after? It is automatically posted to YouTube when we hit the stop button, and I always create replays. There are links on the pull-down menus on my site where you can go back to a page that summarizes the index of all of our previous study groups, and I have YouTube playlists that automatically are updated with the latest one of those. And if it isn't, let me know and I'll make sure it is. That's an easy thing to fix on my side. That's what Jason's right on it. Exactly what I was thinking of doing was doing practice questions that way. We do a daily pop quiz question for A+. I was thinking maybe just getting the pop quiz questions put into a shorts form, and then we could talk about it a little bit and then off to the races. But those are ideas. It's top of the hour. Speaking of content, let's click a button there. Get that running. That's running. That needs to be on the next slide. I think we're ready to get started, everybody. Let's get our chat room moved back over. Let's change the stream health here so that I can keep an eye on it during the live stream. It's currently set to excellent, which is what I want. And we'll get the chat there. And I think we are ready for a live stream. Let's turn down these bright lights just a little bit and get things started right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June 2023 SY0-601 Security Plus Study Group, coming to you live from our studios at Messer Studios. We've got a lot to go through today. Thank you so much for joining us. I have questions for you in this first hour that I have written specifically for this live stream. You've never seen them before. Almost haven't seen them before. We'll talk about that in a moment. And in the meantime, as we're stepping through these videos, start thinking about what you want to be able to ask in the second hour, because I will open up the chat room for questions. We'll step through questions you might have about Security Plus, about getting a job in IT, about IT in general, or about anything else you'd like to talk about, because we're just opening up the lines to see what you would like to do. As we go through these questions today, I would like you, if you are here live, to participate. I'd love it if you were here. One of the things you can do is go to our page that has the Q&A on it. All you have to do is open up a new browser window and go to this URL, professormesser.com/QA, to be able to join us with and interactively participate live as we are doing this. We also have an app for this, because of course there's an app for this. It's called the Socrative Student app, because we use the Socrative service to make this happen. And if you use that app, it will ask you for a room name. The room name is Professor Messer, all one word, PROFESSORMESSER. Either way, if you go to that page, there will be a question waiting for you. That question currently says, which of the following would describe a compensating security control? What would that be? Would it be an IPS, a door lock, a motion detector, a warning sign, or a power generator? Now, the rules as we have it here, I'll put these up. We don't answer in the chat. We don't have hints in the chat. Instead, you go to this URL that's on your page. You go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer if you are here live. Now, if you're watching this on a replay, that link is not going to be available to you, because that's an interactive link we use in real time. But you can, of course, keep watching and follow along with us and lock in your answer in your brain, and you can see how you do when we get to the ends of this. We will talk more about that question in just a moment. In the meantime, let's talk about the study group. We've got our study group here and lots of things to go through in this study group. I have all brand new questions, as I mentioned, so I will, of course, work through some of the things that we will discuss today. Don't worry, we'll be able to go through a lot of different information and content in here. As you are watching this video, though, you may be watching the replay, and of course, every minute of every video that we create for our training classes is available to watch on YouTube for free. You go to professormesser.com/YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, this is a perfect opportunity. Pop open a new browser window. Go to professormesser.com/YouTube. We also have our weekly Security Plus pop quiz question. We post that to Twitter on Thursdays on professormesser.com/Twitter. And we have the same question in a pretty picture form on Instagram at professormesser.com/Instagram. The SY0-601 is the version of the exam that we currently have available to take. This is an exam that was released on November the 12th of 2020, and we estimate the retirement date for this exam is going to be somewhere around May of 2024. So you have, as we sit here in June of 2023, you have plenty of time before this this particular version of the exam goes away or does something different. It's one that you can really want to keep track of that, because if you get close to when it retires, you may need to make some changes to your studying. But as we sit here in June of 2023, we're in great shape. So this is pretty important that we have an idea of where this is going to be. So if you're someone who is working through the details of these exams and you're trying to figure out which one do I take, this is the one you take. So keep working on the way this works out. Of course, this only applies to the exam. Once you become certified, it really doesn't matter how many times they change the exam out. They can change the version of the exam every day if they want. It would not affect you. So that's why I tell people you could take this exam on the last day it's offered and you're still certified for 3 years. It doesn't change anything for you. So keep that in mind as we are stepping through all of these. I think that's an important consideration for your scheduling. The exam itself is a 90-minute exam. You can get a maximum of 90 questions, but you may get fewer than 90 questions on your exam. We also have a grading system that is between 100 and 900, and you need to score a 750. Quite an unusual grading system that they have, but the important thing to remember is just work through your exam, do the best you can. The score is going to be whatever the score is once it gets to the other side of this. Don't worry so much about what the score happens to be or working towards a particular score, because you really don't have much control over that. That's why I tell people, don't try to reverse engineer the grading system. You'll never figure it out. Trust me, I've been in the middle of this for a while. I tell people, just do the best you can. The grade will work itself out at the end, and we'll be able to work along those lines. If you want the objectives to this, and I highly recommend that you do, go to professormesser.com/objectives, and that is a great place to download the free objectives from the CompTIA website. Also let you know that we even have all of these exam training materials online. Every minute of every video, as I mentioned, is available on YouTube. Some people would like a downloadable version of these videos, and I, of course, have that available as part of my Success Bundle. I have both a digital version, or I can send you a physical edition USB drive with everything on it. Some people prefer the downloadable digital. Some people like the physical. It's completely up to you. When all of these include my course notes, my practice exams, all of the videos to be downloaded, all the videos in MP3 audio format. There's a lot more in here as well. You can find out about that at professormesser.com/601SB. So see if you are familiar with that. See if it's something that might help you. You're welcome to have a look at that on our website. I'll also let you know that as we are stepping through the details of this training course and these live streams, that we have an audio-only replay of this available in podcast format. You can go to professormesser.com/podcast. That's a great way to sign up with your favorite podcast listening program. There's a link on that page for A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you'd prefer a video version, this video replay is available immediately after the live event. I don't even have to do anything. Once I stop it, it's automatically processed and added to my account, which makes it very easy for you to find what you're looking for. To make it even easier, you'll notice in the replay, in the YouTube video description, there is a list of timestamps here so you can find exactly what you're looking for. That's created by Lori, my marketing manager. Hi, Lori. How you doing? Were those storms bad today? We should probably talk at some point about all of that, but she's going to be very busy with that over the next day, listening to this, putting in the timestamps, and thanks to her, you can go back years to find the information you might be looking for any of our live events. Also let you know that when we're not doing a live event, which is most of the time, you can find us on our Discord. This is a great community of like-minded folks who are working towards their certifications, and a number of people that earned their certification and they just decided not to go anywhere. They just stayed right here on our Discord, which is great because they can help you with questions that you might have about your A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, or other technology topics that you might have. It's remarkable how many interesting technologies that people will come up with and talk about just in passing on the Discord. It's a fantastic community. We'd love for you to join us. It's absolutely free. You can join us by going to professormesser.com/Discord. Also let you know that eventually you're going to need to take this exam. You'll need to purchase the exam sitting. You can do that on the CompTIA website, but you're going to pay full price. to go to the CompTIA website. Instead, wouldn't it be great if you could pay a little bit less than full price? And you can, if you're in the US or Canada or a number of US territories, you can buy that on the Professor Messer website at a discount. You don't need a discount code. You don't need an extension in your browser. It's just discounted. All you have to do is add it and purchase it, and you now have a discount available, and it's the same as the voucher that you would get anywhere else. And those vouchers are good for about a year. I also, since you're purchasing it on my site and you're nice enough to do so, I want to give you something extra. And I will give you a copy of my Exam Hacks ebook. This is an ebook that I do not sell. You can only get this if you purchase my Success Bundle or if you purchase a voucher. And this is a set of tips and tricks that I've accumulated over the years that I've simply documented. And there's some things in there that might even help you during the exam to get you a few extra points. So that might be something that can help you. You can find out more at professormesser.com/vouchers. So pretty important. These are one-sitting vouchers. These are not retake vouchers. The only true retake voucher is out on the CompTIA website. And of course, you're paying full price for something like that. The goal is not to retake. You pass it the first time, then you've saved some money on your voucher. That's the real goal when working through this. Let's see how you did on that question we asked earlier. The question asks, which of the following would describe a compensating security control? Would it be IPS, door lock, motion detector, warning sign, or power generator? Let's see how you did. Now, last month, we did not make 50% of you making a power generator as your compensating security control, but now 47% of you, about half of you, say that's what you would qualify as a compensating security control. We have 19% that said IPS, 15% that said door lock, 10% said warning sign, and 8%, there's our single digits, down at motion detector. Well, I guess it would be useful to know what a compensating security control is. You would think security control means it might stop something. But of course, there are types of controls that aren't actually preventing the attack from occurring, but help you recover or compensate when an attack has already occurred. A good example of a compensating security control is the picture that we have here. That is a generator. So that is one where if you're ever in the situation where now the attack has already occurred, how do you recover from this? How do you compensate for this type of attack? Maybe you restore from backup. Maybe you convert everybody and now we're running at a different hot site than we were originally. Maybe we have a backup power system or a generator like we have here. Those are perfectly reasonable compensating controls. And if we look at our list of what those were, indeed, the only one that kind of fits that category is a power generator. 48% of you chose power generator, and that's absolutely what we would use. If somebody cut the power, we were attacked by somebody who decided you're not going to have power to your data center any longer, and this is a reality. Most recently, we've seen a number of switching sites from the utility companies have some type of external influence. Somebody shot up the equipment and caused huge areas of particular counties to go black. And that could happen to anybody worrying about their data center staying up and running. We need that power. So how can we compensate for that? We get a power generator, and now we can compensate for all of those issues. So that's a really good example of how we can use today's technology to help compensate for things that might be happening external or without our direct influence, and attacks is a pretty important one. Would not be an IPS, intrusion prevention system, would stop the attack. If this was a network-based known attack, an IPS would stop it before the attack got inside our network. That's not a compensating control, so we would not put that into the category of compensating. A door lock prevents somebody from getting into the room. That also stops attacks from occurring, so that would not be a good example. A motion detector lets us know if somebody is in the room, but it doesn't compensate for that. It's more of an identification that something is going on that may require some additional attention. And then we've got a warning sign. Of course, warning signs, they stop everybody. I see a warning sign that says, "Do not enter." Well, of course I'm not going to enter. That's the beauty of working with these. No, that's not how it works. That's not how we work through those. Of course, that's not going to be a compensating security control. The power generator is really the only one here that makes any sense, and that's the one that I would recommend you select. If you did choose that one, then you got it absolutely correct. Before we go to our performance-based question of the month, and of course, I have a brand new performance-based question every month. Before we get to that, I want to thank a few folks who were nice enough to add some super chats into the list before we got started today, or just as we got started. Eduardo Hernandez with the $19.99 super chat. Thank you for your support. No message there, but we feel the love, so thank you for that. Also, Just Incredible says, $10 super chat, says, hey, Professor Messer, just passed my Security Plus. Thanks for all you do. Congratulations on your new Security Plus, and I'm so glad to hear at your success at earning your brand new Security Plus certification. And also, thank you for your support. Content Watcher says, let me buy you a coffee with a $10 super chat. He says, he or she says, thank you for helping me to pass my Network Plus and Security Plus. Well, thank you. We appreciate that too. And lastly, PimQ with the $10 super chat. Passed my A Plus a while ago. Network Plus just recently, now studying for Security Plus. Thank you for your videos and study guides. You're absolutely welcome. Thank you so much for the super chat, for the support, and from all of you. It's a great way to support what we do here. Thank you so much for doing that. As I mentioned, every month I have a brand new performance-based question. Now, for those of you that have never taken a CompTIA exam before, this is the first handful of questions you get on the exam are performance-based questions. That's what CompTIA calls them. What they really are is anything but a multiple choice based question. So we just did a multiple choice question where there was a question and then there were multiple options to choose from. So even on this one, if you didn't know the answer, you had a 20% chance of earning some points on that one. Well, with performance-based question, not the same situation. Now you've got challenges because if you are taking a question that is not multiple choice, it could be fill in the blank, it could be matching, it could be drag and drop, it could be putting things in a particular order, but not to worry because the information in the question are things you already know. It's just a different way to ask you about information that you've already memorized. So I have for you today, we're going to call it, it's sort of a matching question. It's really more of a fill in the blank, but I've already given you what to fill in. So we're going to call it a matching question. Our performance-based question of the month asks, data in transit, data in use, or data at rest. And I have for you 6 different types and descriptions of data. And I want you to tell me for each one of these, is it data in transit, data in use, or data at rest? Now, of course, as I mentioned, our standing rule, please no answers in the chat room, please no hints in the chat room. Instead, you'll want to follow the link that's at the bottom of your screen, professormesser.com/QA. That's the link you want to use to lock in your answer. And so you don't have to type a lot. This is something that you can absolutely go through this list and figure out what you want to put for each one of these and simply submit that as all 6 of them together if you wanted to. But remember what you submit because there's no way to reference it once you lock it in. That's a little quirk of the Socrative service that we use, but at least we can remember what we typed in, right? While we're doing that, I want to thank Kafu in the chat room with a $20 super chat. He says, thank you, Professor. I appreciate all the work you put into these videos and making them so accessible. I spent hours studying every chance I got, even at the gym. It's a good place to study. I passed the A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus on my first try. Congratulations on all 3 of those. Thank you also for your super chat and your support of what we do here. You are paying it forward for the folks that are coming behind you, so thanks so much. This is one of those where if you look at what we are doing with these courses and how we are disseminating this information to everyone, YouTube makes a perfect sense for this. So we're going to keep putting them out on YouTube so you have videos and content that you can always reference. And I'm glad it helped you in your goals towards A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus, and you got a little more buff because you were at the gym listening in or watching while it was leg day and it was brain day. That's kind of the way it works when I go to the gym too. So I have my playlist all set up and I don't want to listen to music. I want to be more knowledgeable walking out of the gym than I walked in. You can do the same thing if you're driving to work. You'll be smarter when you get to work than when you started the drive. So there's always great places to keep working towards that. And it's a really fun way to find interesting information and learn more about some of the things that sometimes we see all the time. Let's go through all 6 of these data types and these data descriptions and see if we can really understand what it happens to be. So let's break them down into different views of this. We'll start with the one that's at the top. And I think I can clear the screen here, and let's just step through them one at a time. The first one on our list, and I didn't go through all of these. I apologize for the folks on the podcast, but there's 6 of them here. So we'll go through them right now. And as you're listening on the podcast side, you can decide, is it data in transit, data in use, or data at rest? The first one on our list is a company's invoices are stored on a SAN in PDF format. So is that data in transit, data in use, or data at rest? And if you chose at rest, you got that one absolutely correct. At rest means it's data that's being stored on a storage device. Obviously, data in transit would be going across the network. It would be in motion. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as that. Data in use is data that is actively being worked on in the memory of a system. So those are 3 different places where you can find data. And from the perspective of someone trying to stop or protect your network, stop the attack and protect against these vulnerabilities, knowing where the data is and what type of data it is and what format is going to be pretty important. Let's do the next one, which says a browser page sorts data in ascending or descending order. We've probably seen this when you got a list of data. You can click the top and it will sort the data, in this case, inside of your browser. And because we are actively in the browser, that data must be in memory, so it is in use. You chose in use, you got answer B, absolutely correct. Next on our list is an online web conference is sent in real time to attendees. Sort of what we're doing here. I'm in real time. I'm transmitting this information, broadcasting this information to YouTube. YouTube is converting it into a format that's useful for you and the device you're using, and they send that down to you. It happens in a matter of seconds. When you see that being sent in real time, data being sent over the network, then that's obviously in transit. So that's another one where the data is something going over the network. Anytime you see the network or it's being sent or there's data moving between one place and another, that data is in transit. Fourth on our list, a quiz app shows the answer after each question attempt. You've probably seen this on my daily pop quiz questions where you're presented with a question, you click the answer, and it tells you immediately, did you get the answer right and shows you green, or did you get the answer wrong and it shows you red? It all happens instantly. Well, it's not pulling that across the network, and it's not storing that information on a storage drive. Therefore, it would be in the memory of that system, or it would be in use. The fifth on our list is authentication attempts are sent to an in-house AAA server. Well, if you're working on authentication attempts, and if you've watched my video on AAA, you know there's a lot of data that's moving around the network. You're talking to an authentication device. That device is talking to an authentication server. The server sending back messages to the device you're trying to authenticate to, saying that you are either allowed or not allowed in. So a lot of network communication occurring there. That means we should call it in transit. And lastly on our list is database queries are transmitted over an IPsec VPN. So we're sending information over the network, over a virtual private network to be specific. And that means that this information was in motion or in transit. So there they are. Those are the 6 different descriptions I have and the data in transit, in use, or at rest. As a summary, a company's invoices are stored on a SAN in PDF format. That's at rest. A browser page sorts data in ascending or descending order. That is in use. We've got an online web conference sent in real time to attendees. That's in transit. A quiz app shows the answer after each question attempt is in use. Authentication attempts are sent to an in-house AAA server is in transit. and database queries transmitted over an IPsec VPN. It's literally in the description itself. It's transmitted, therefore it is in transit. That is the 5 different options, or the 6 different descriptions that we had, and the 6 different options you could choose from between those 3, the in transit, the in use, or the at rest. Make sure you're familiar with those. If you're not, there's a video you can go to. It's our 601 video of 2.1, processing data, and you can learn more about these different categories. This might help with some of the things you're working on. If you like that performance-based question, you can go back to any of our study groups. We have a new performance-based question every month. That's why the replays are there. That might help you with some of the things that you are doing. Before we go to our next multiple choice-based question, I want to thank Bronco in the chat room with the $25 super chat. Bronco, thank you for your support. No message on the super chat. Bronco's just sharing the love. So thank you. We're going to thank you and send you the love right back. We sure appreciate your support as well. Let's do some performance-based questions. I wanted to move out of the performance-based into the multiple choice-based questions. Let me be clear. And in these multiple choice-based questions, maybe this is one where if you didn't get this one right, maybe we can rebound back. This question asks, an identical key is used to encrypt and decrypt a file. Which of the following describes this encryption? Is it quantum, ephemeral, blockchain, key stretching, or symmetric? These are questions we should think about. So the question again asks, an identical key is used to encrypt and decrypt a file. Which of the following describes this encryption? Is it quantum, ephemeral, blockchain, key stretching, or symmetric? You have those 5 choices to choose from. There's your link. If you think you know the answer, please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. Go to professormesser.com/QA to lock in your answer. Some folks in the chat room always working to find the different options that might be available. A lot of folks not happy with the acronyms. Don't worry, we have plenty more acronyms that we will be getting to throughout this today. Don't worry. I see the chat room saying we need more acronyms. We love acronyms. We can't get enough acronyms, and I'm here for you. I will make sure that you get these done. So that's a really good idea or question about some of the things we'll be working towards. The questions that we are doing in the study group are questions that can help you understand topics that you may or may not be very solid with. These are not designed to be questions that you might get on the exam. I have a whole set of practice exams for that. We'll talk more about the practice exams in a bit, but this should help you as you're studying. This is a study group. So that's what we're trying to do, is to make or become familiar at least with what we are doing here and get familiar with all of these. This is a pretty good place to go if you're trying to figure out the details. See if you're familiar with all of these questions. This may be one that you're really familiar with, but of course, all of the answers are exactly from or pulled from the exam objectives. So that's another good example of where you really, really need to be familiar with what's in the exam objectives. And if you don't recognize one of these answers, you want to be sure to go back to the exam objectives and become familiar with those topics, because that may be very important when you finally get to the exam. Let's see how you did with this one. The question asks, an identical key is used to encrypt and decrypt a file. Which of the following describes this encryption? Is this quantum, ephemeral, blockchain, key stretching, or symmetric? And in this case, we didn't fool very many people. We bounced back pretty well after that performance-based question, where 93% of you say symmetric is what you would choose for this one. I say you can't see that on the screen. There it is, the 93% of you saying symmetric for this. This is one where symmetric encryption can be used to really help understand different ways of protecting or securing data, making information confidential on our systems. If you look at symmetric encryption, it's a single key. It's shared between different people. You can think of symmetric encryption as information that would be inside of this particular case. So how do we take a key and give it to someone else so that we both have the key? This was a very common way to do it. We'd have somebody take the key to the other person, and now we have a key that we could communicate with and encrypt our data. But of course, we'd have to know the person sending the key wasn't looking at the key, or you'd have a sort of an on-path attack for that one. We don't want that to happen either. So that's one of those situations where you'll run into this. Sometimes you'll hear this key referred to as a shared secret, because that's really what you're doing. You're creating a secret piece of information that is only shared between the people that need to encrypt data. This is obviously a challenge for distribution. There are ways to create a shared key between devices without sending that key over the network. We talk about this in our course when we deal with Diffie-Hellman, which is a key exchange algorithm that does exactly that. So you may want to go back and look at those to be able to use it. But the reason we still use this is that it's very fast. And many times we need speed in our encryption methods. And very often we combine this with asymmetric encryption. I have examples of that in my videos as well, something you can think about. And I think the 93% of you got that one absolutely right. So folks in the chat room were mentioning some of these others. 4% of you said blockchain. That's obviously an important technology, but not one that uses a single key to encrypt or decrypt. Blockchain obviously has tons of cryptography inside of it, but that's not the method or the best description of actually encrypting data with that single shared key. The best description here really is symmetric. If you have a key and you want to make that key larger, you can go through a lot of different mechanisms to take a single short key and turn it into a complex long key. You can do that with key stretching, but that is not a description of using a single key to encrypt and decrypt. We've also got ephemeral, which would be a key that's used temporarily, something that would only be here for a short period of time, then it's gone forever. That is the definition of something that is ephemeral. And then you have a quantum encryption. Some folks in the chat room were even saying quantum. Is that in the exam objectives? It absolutely is. No, I don't know why, but there it is in your exam objectives to know quantum technologies. Fortunately, it's just a small little section, and I have a video that should tell you everything you need to know. If you've never seen anything about quantum technologies, watching that video will definitely mess up your brain a little bit. Quantum technologies, I still don't understand. It's interesting. It's a part of science that the scientists don't understand. They just know it works. So they use it because they know it works, but they have no idea how it works. They have very little idea how it works. We're learning more about quantum technologies all the time. But our answer here, definitely symmetric. Nobody went for any of those other options. So hopefully that's something that can help you as you're studying for your exam. Let's shift gears a little bit and go through this. For those of you that were interested in this one, that is from my section 2.8. The name of the video is Symmetric and Asymmetric Cryptography. Plenty to see there as well. Let's do another question. I have this one that maybe is another technology you're familiar with. Let's see if you do just as well on this one. I hope you do. This question asks, a company has enabled radius federation. Which of the following would best describe this feature? Is it enable features based on geographic location, authenticate from another organization's network, increase capacity during high utilization, disable network access prior to authentication, or apply policies from Active Directory? So this is one where we really do need to understand this technology, and not just the definition of it, but how we would use it, which, to be fair, is kind of like the questions you get on your exam. The question again asks, a company has enabled radius federation. Which of the following would best describe this feature? Is it enable features based on geographical location, authenticate from another organization's network, increase capacity during high utilization, disable network access prior to authentication, or apply policies from Active Directory? Those are the 5 different options. Make sure you lock yours in. Please know the answers in the chat room. Please know hints in the chat room. Your link is on the screen. You can go to professormesser.com/QA to lock in your answer. There it is, right there on the screen. So see if you happen to know. A lot of people put their answers in on this one. I always think that maybe this one is another one where we have a lot of percentages, but this is maybe a technology you've never used before. You might have never even seen this technology before. I don't want to give too much away. Maybe you have seen this. Maybe you have used it. That didn't help. That was not a hint at all. Maybe you know it. Maybe you don't know it. There's the definition of someone taking a certification exam. I'm glad I was able to be here and help you through this process. Let's see how you did. The question asks, a company has enabled radius federation. Which of the following would best describe this feature? Is it enable features based on a geographical location, authenticate from another organization's network, increase capacity during high utilization, disable network access prior to authentication, or apply policies from Active Directory? We will show the results, and you can see that 65% of you say authenticate from another organization's network. So that's a pretty strong number, but we also have double digits for enable features based on geographical location and apply policies from Active Directory. Then we go down to single digits. 6% said disable network access prior to authentication, and 4% say increase capacity during high utilization. Well, the key here is radius federation and being able to work with radius federation. This is one where we are using the radius protocol, which is an authentication protocol. And normally, radius is something that we have on our internal network. We have people authenticate to a central authentication server, and no one outside of our organization can authenticate that way. It's our private radius server. But there may be times, and if you think about people that work at a college campus, for example, they might visit a college campus nearby for a big meeting. Maybe the physics department gets together and they all talk about the things they've done in the last quarter, and people, professors, students from all over come to this one place. And the people that have come to this one place would like to authenticate using the credentials they always use, but they're not on their normal private network. So one of the things you can do is use radius federation. That federation added to this means that we are now able to authenticate even though we're on somebody else's network. We're able to use a centralized service that is indeed not even centralized to us. Something that is unusual. It takes a bit to set it up, but it was specifically designed to handle these situations where you might travel to a lot of different places, but you still want to use the same username, the same password, and make that happen. Sometimes you'll hear this referred to as education roaming, eduroam.org, which I think is still there. Can talk a little bit about that. It's a good use case for radius federation. If you already knew what radius was, then you might be able to help a little bit more with the federation part, put those together, and you've got authentication from somewhere other than the home base, the home location of this authentication server. Very similar if you were logging into a third-party website. Sometimes they ask you to log in with your Google credentials, log in with your Twitter credentials. Even though you're not logging into Google or Twitter, this third-party website can use those credentials safely without you giving them your username and password, which is fantastic, by the way. So that may be something that can help you. Radius federation is the answer. 66% of you got this one absolutely correct. Enabling features based on a geographical location is usually something we see with mobile devices. So you have your mobile phone, and we do a geolocation on that, or geofencing, to allow or disallow functionality. So for example, you might be working at a very secure environment. Maybe you're working for the federal government and they don't want you taking pictures when you're in the building. So as you're walking into the building and you're moving into that geographic area, the mobile device manager that's configured with your phone will disable the camera. So if you are in the building, your camera won't work. So it's a good example of doing something with geofencing that would enable or disable features based on a geographical location. 10% of you said apply policies from Active Directory. There are ways to apply those policies from the command line. We can do a GP update, for example, to update the group policies that we've configured within Active Directory. That's not radius federation. That's group policy settings, so that would not be the right answer. Disabling network access prior to authentication really is more of a description of 802.1x. It's a way to prevent access until you give me your username and password. but that 802.1x doesn't necessarily imply that we're either local to our authentication server or not local to it. Radius Federation is a better description of that. And then increasing capacity during high utilization. That would be something we commonly see in cloud-based systems where we have rapid elasticity, where we can quickly expand and quickly decrease the size of our application footprint. That really best describes increasing capacity during high utilization. It does not describe Radius Federation. The only one that does is answer B, authenticate from another organization's network. Hopefully that's one you got right as we were stepping through this. Now, you can already tell as we're going through some of these topics, there is a lot of information to go through, and that's putting it mildly. The Security Plus exam, the SY0-601 specifically, is an enormous exam. Lots of content, bigger than A+, bigger than Network Plus. It really is its own animal. And if you take everything from every video, if you were to take all of the text, all of the graphics, the important pictures and images, all of the tables, and you put them into one document, you would have my course notes. This is where I collapse everything from my videos into one single set of notes, something that you might find very helpful for your studies. It, of course, doesn't replace your videos. It doesn't replace your book. It doesn't replace hands-on or anything else, but it is a great way to have everything in one place. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. There we go. We can see 2 pages at a time. You can see that it is separated and organized by video in the same order as the videos in the YouTube video description, in my playlists, on my website, and everywhere else. And of course, all the great graphics, all of the charts, all of the tables, they are in here. It's a big document. It has to be because there are 177 videos, almost 21 plus hours of info in this course. There's a lot there. So I have both digital versions that you just saw and physical versions, which of course identical, full color, but they are in a format that you can carry around. And if you get the physical version, I will give you the digital version for free. So you can immediately download it, start using it while you're waiting on this to be printed on demand and shipped to you automatically wherever you happen to be in the world. Find out more about this. 120 pages. It is big. It's a big one. And it's not really one where you'd have to worry too much about the details, but it might help you as you are trying to figure out, how can I use this information better? Once I go through all the videos, how can I work on retaining that and going back through the details without having to go back to every single video? Well, here's your answer. And it also helps support what we do on the website. So I think that's a win-win for everybody. Find out more. Go to professormesser.com/601CN, and maybe that can help you as well. Can use bookmarks. It is a PDF, and it is a non-protected PDF. So you can annotate, you can put bookmarks, you can draw on it, you can highlight things, you can do whatever you would like. I hate PDFs that lock down everything. What type of learning tool is that? You need to be able to make notes. You need to be able to underline things and highlight and color them differently and circle them. And you can absolutely do that with every single one of our PDFs that we create. Course notes, practice exams, and everything else, they are never, never, never locked down. That just doesn't make sense to me. But I understand why people do it, and hopefully you understand why I do not. Let's do some more questions. I've got more here. This one is a question that asks, a security admin needs to modify a portion of a system's boot sector. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Would it be FTK Imager, DD, WinHex, MemDump, or Autopsy? These are all real things, by the way. I didn't make up any of these. In fact, they all come from your exam objectives. If you don't recognize one, write it down, make a note, put it online in your notes, follow up on that later. But absolutely a place you should go. The question again asks, a security admin needs to modify a portion of a system's boot sector. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Is it FTK Imager, DD, WinHex, MemDump, or Autopsy? What would be the best choice? If you think you know the answer, please don't answer in the chat room. You want to go right to the link that's on your screen, professormesser.com/QA, and lock in your answer. Is it getting harder? I think it might be getting a little bit harder. I always check the numbers as people are locking in their answers to see how they do. And no Googling. Cannot Google. You can't Google during the exam. You cannot Google during the live stream. I want to thank Trans Hardware. Just popped up in the chat room. Thanks, Trans Hardware. We have $4.99 super chat and an adorable dog as this. I'm going to have to... No, I can't show it on the screen because I can't pull it over right there. But a fantastic little puppy. I'd like to know the name of the dog, which is pretty important for me. And thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat as well. I'm now waiting. I want to know. We're not going anywhere until we find out the name of the cute little puppy. These are important things to have here. I think if not, we'll just name it ourselves. It'll be the new puppy. I have 3 dogs roaming around my house, so I am definitely a dog person. When we get this for these, so that's when I think it gives me something to do. At the end of the day, I can pet them. They're the dogs that come in and give me therapy. My therapy dogs. At the end of the day, to make that happen. Some people are saying his name's Messer Jr. I'm so sorry to hear that. It's not true. That's not what it is for doing this. We'll have to figure out the details. Let's see if you knew the answer to this one as we wait on the name of this dog, because this is now becoming an obsession of mine. A security admin needs to modify a portion of a system's boot sector. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Is it FTK Imager, DD, WinHex, MemDump, or Autopsy? And what did you choose? Let's show the results. Oh, we're all over the place. We don't know. We are not quite sure on this one. How quickly this entire study group changes when we hit one of these types of questions. Let's see if we can break down what this happens to be, though. We may be able to do this. So the question was, we need to modify a portion of a system's boot sector. This can be very important if you run into a system where the boot sector has been damaged with malware or it's been corrupted in some other way. We may need to rebuild some of the part of that boot sector manually. Not something you commonly do, but there may be times when you run into situations like this and you need to know, what tool can I use that really would do this for me? We have 35% of you that say WinHex, although it's not the majority. It is the plurality by about 12, 13%, so that's pretty good. We also have, especially whenever you get into the details, 22% tied between FTK Imager and DD. So we'll talk about that in a moment. 13% of you say it's Autopsy, and 8% say MemDump. Now, if we went with the plurality of you, 34% of you, I think that would be a pretty good one to go with, because WinHex is a fantastic hexadecimal editor. The hex editors that you can get, there are many different kinds. There are free ones out there. There are hex editors you can pay for, like WinHex, which is an exceptional hex editor. And it's one of those where you don't need it until you need it. And when you need it very, very badly. I've gotten myself out a number of tight situations by using a hex editor. We can talk about some of the things I've been doing with a hex editor, but modifying any part of the operating system, any file, and modifying it on the drive is something that hex editors like WinHex do very, very well. So if you need to modify something in memory, you need to modify it on the disk. These hex editors are very, very powerful. Some of these have built into them a way to even clone data. WinHex is one of these where they have a duplication option within the utility itself. So if you don't have any other way to image a drive, for example, especially if you're in Windows, then this would be a really good example of where drive replication can be done within a utility you might already have. It also does secure wipe. We can see the information on the screen on the editor, and you could just say, make all of this zeros, and you've now securely wiped everything associated with that section of WinHex. It's a great forensics tool. It's a tool you need to know about for your exam. It is part of the CompTIA exam objectives. You'll find more information about WinHex in the SY0-601 course in section 4.1 under forensic tools is what you would find. WinHex is the right answer. If you answered C, WinHex, 35% of you got that one absolutely correct. Now we have a two-way tie for second place, 22% for FTK Imager, 22% for DD. These are imaging utilities, or most commonly used for imaging. You can take a drive or a partition and image it sector by sector to another device, to a file. There's lots of different ways that you can output that data. FTK Imager is a very well-known imaging application that is used primarily in the forensics field because it's designed to work in conjunction with systems and software that can read into the image to find information. Specifically, Autopsy is a great example of that, of a utility that can look through the image you've created to find emails, information that's in a storage drive, to find files that might be hidden or deleted. A fantastic forensics tool. Autopsy, it's almost a one button, go through the entire drive and show me everything you find kind of situation. It's exceptionally easy to use. It's exceptionally complex. If you need to do other things, there is a bit of a learning curve, but you can get into it very easily. It's a great tool to really play around with. If you've never worked with Autopsy, Google some YouTube videos of this. It's really interesting what you're able to do with it. I pulled out some very interesting details from drives that I've purchased other places. It's remarkable what people don't delete. Also, we have on our list MemDump. That's the last one we really haven't gone through. MemDump does exactly what you might think it does. It goes into the memory of your system, takes everything that's in memory, pulls it out, and can store it on a separate file for you, hopefully one that's external to your system. And if you're ever working through trying to get data in memory, it's in use. We already know that from our performance-based question earlier. MemDump is a great way to grab information that's in use and store that so that we can look through it later on. Pretty useful to make that happen. WinHex is the right answer. If you answered C, WinHex, you got that one absolutely correct. Before we go to our next question, I want to thank Yukon Cornelius in the chat room. Nothing. $50 from Yukon Cornelius. Thank you, Yukon. That is a pretty strong super chat. Thank you so much. And Yukon writes, I passed Network Plus in March and Security Plus a few weeks ago using your videos, notes, and practice tests nearly exclusively. Really appreciate the content. Well, thank you, Yukon, for letting us know about passing your Network Plus in March and Security Plus a few weeks ago. Congratulations on both of those. And thank you for the comments you made about our training materials. We work very hard to make sure that you have the best quality Security Plus, A Plus, Network Plus training materials that you could get anywhere, even the free ones. So you're looking at free videos on YouTube. You won't even find videos you can pay for that are this good. That's what we're striving towards. Hopefully sometimes we do that. We'll have to find out if it works that way and get there. But that is a very generous super chat. So thank you so much, Yukon Cornelius, for that. And we'll see you in December, because I always see Yukon Cornelius in December. It just works out that way. Let's do another question. And I want to be sure to do a couple of other things before we're done here. The next question on our list is this one that asks, an organization is using the SSAE SOC 2 Type 2 framework. Which of the following would most likely be associated with this framework? Would it be system audit, security policies, a list of known vulnerabilities, disaster recovery planning, or encrypted tunnels? There you go. We've got a number of things to choose from here. Let's go through this again. The question asks, an organization is using the SSAE SOC 2 Type 2 framework. Which of the following would most likely be associated with this framework? Is it system audit, security policies, a list of known vulnerabilities, disaster recovery planning, or encrypted tunnels? So we'll have to find out what you think the answer is. If you think you know the answer, please lock in your answer at this link, professormesser.com/QA, and see if you know what it is. Terrence Tech in the chat room with the $2 super chat asks, do we still get CE points for attending this live? Yes, you're way ahead of me. There, right after this question, I planned on giving you a CEU phrase and some instructions, so stand by for that. You absolutely get points. And of course, if you're watching this in the replay, you can also get CEUs for watching the replay as well. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just watch 50 of these and you'd have everything you needed? But you cannot. The webinar category CEUs can only be used, I think for Security Plus, you can use 10 of them. So that's not bad, but you'd have to get the other 40 points somewhere else. I think that's why a lot of people just tend to do the Cert Master CE, and then you don't have to collect any CEUs. Sometimes that's a good point. Fine question. Thank you for asking, Terrence Tech, and thank you also for the $2 super chat, which of course gets my eyes too. So a good question to have there. The lot of what we do when we are breaking down these types of questions, though, you'll notice the answers are all very similar to each other. In fact, all of the answers are associated with different frameworks. So this question's a little bit more difficult than what you might be expecting. Let's see how you did with it. The question again asks, an organization is using the SSAE SOC 2 Type 2 framework. Which of the following would most likely be associated with this framework? Is it system audit, security policies, a list of known vulnerabilities, disaster recovery planning, or encrypted tunnels? And how did you do? You did okay, but you didn't do great. 39% of you say security policies. 32% say system audit. So already almost well over half, certainly into the 60 and 70 percentages, are those two alone. 13% of you say disaster recovery planning, 9% say encrypted tunnels, 7% say a list of known vulnerabilities. So specifically here, we sort of spelled out for you that we wanted to know what this framework is doing for you. This SSAE SOC 2 Type 2 or SOC2 Type 2 that we would be working towards. This is a framework used by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. It is a standard for auditing information technology, specifically information security. So this is something that they can use to help qualify a standard across multiple people's networks to be able to compare how the security might be in your particular organization. That SOC 2 is referring to a trust services criteria for identifying the security based around firewalls, intrusion detection, multi-factor authentication, and other types of systems. A Type 1 audit is one where you are determining what controls are in place right now as we stand here. And there's a Type 2 audit that evaluates how we are doing with these controls over a period of time, which is usually more common to see because you want to be able to watch how you are doing. All of this is based around auditing. Anytime you see SSAE, you should automatically be thinking audit. So that big description of SSAE, SOC 2, Type 1, and Type 2, it's okay. We already knew way at the beginning of that this had to do with some type of auditing of what we are doing with our security technologies. So if we look at our list, we can see that a system audit, which is exactly what this is the correct answer. Only 32% of us chose that one, not the plurality here. In fact, security policies is what 39% of you chose, and the security policies is not the primary function of SSAE SOC 2 Type 2. This is an audit. So anytime you see a question about SSAE, in fact, that's a really good example in the chat room. Joseph says there's an A in it. That means audit. You should automatically be thinking about auditing and making that happen. That is the right answer. Now, there are other frameworks you need to know for the SY0-601 exam. Make sure you're familiar with those, and you'll notice that the different answers in this question are pulling from what the answer might be if I chose a different type of framework. So all of the other answers are associated with other frameworks. Maybe you'll be able, after we're done here, to start matching up all of the frameworks that are listed in our video. This video is the 5.2 security frameworks video right there at the bottom. Go through that video and see if you can match up where those happen to be. Maybe that can be something that can help you as you're going through these different and in many cases somewhat complex frameworks, especially if you've never used any of these frameworks before. If you're watching this video for continuing education unit credit, I would love to send you an email that has a certification that you were here, you earned a 1-hour webinar category CEU by simply either watching this on our live stream or watching it on demand after the fact. So it really doesn't matter when you watch it. In fact, you can go back and watch replays and submit a CEU as well. You just have to listen in because you must follow these instructions to earn your CEU. You go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. There is a Contact Us link on the page. On that Contact Us link, it will pop open a form. Put your name, your email address. In the subject line, put June 2023 Security Plus, just so I know that you were here for this particular event. And then in the body of the message, on a line by itself, put the super secret code words of the month, System Audit. System Audit are the super secret code words of the month. You can simply just put those in the message and send it, and you're done. If you would like to add other information to that, I read through every single one of these. So if you want to hit enter a couple times, and after that line by itself, you can put any message or text in there that you would like, and I read through every single one of those. I get some great messages from you folks, so thank you for adding them if you did. But if you don't want to, that's fine too. Simply go to the top or the bottom of the Professor website. For the Professor Messer website, click on Contact Us, put your name, your email address, put in the subject line, June 2023 Security Plus or something like that so I can find it. And then the body of the message on a line by itself, put the super secret code word System Audit. And it'll take me about a week to get these back to you, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but I will get these back to you eventually. Do not worry. We'll make sure that you're able to do that. We do have time for, I'm going to do another question. I know we're at the top of the hour, but let's do another one. I've got one ready to go, so why wouldn't we? This question asks, an organization is unable to reliably use 802.11 networks or Bluetooth devices. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue? Would it be on-path attacks, cross-site scripting, logic bomb, RF jamming, or brute force attacks? See how we bounce back from that last one. If you know the answer, please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. Instead, follow the link on your screen. Go to professormesser.com/QA to lock in your answer. The question again asks, an organization is unable to reliably use 802.11 networks or Bluetooth devices. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue? Is it on-path attacks, cross-site scripting, logic bomb, RF jamming, or brute force attacks? Let's see if we know what this one is. Is it a gimme or is it not a gimme? We're going to find out in just a moment. Lock in your answer. Go to professormesser.com/QA to see if you happen to know what this answer is. In the meantime, Leche Fresca in the chat room with the $27 super chat off the top rope. Thank you for this. Who says, hello, Professor Messer. Passed my Security Plus 601 last Saturday with a 7.75. Your course videos, notes, study group sessions, practice exams helped me tremendously. Thank you so much for what you do. You are the GOAT. I'm a goat. I don't know if is that what we're thinking? No. Oh, I know what that is. So thank you so much for the kind words. Congratulations on your Security Plus. A nice score too as you're going through it. So that was fantastic. And a $27 super chat on top of that. Thank you for your generosity and for really working through and making this information more acceptable or accessible, if you will, for other folks that are trying to earn their Security Plus as well. You are helping more people down the line with everything that we do. So thank you so much for that. This question is one that, let's see how we did. I think we might do good on this one, but we're gonna figure out the details and see if you do happen to know what this one is. The question again asks, an organization is unable to reliably use 802.11 networks or Bluetooth devices. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue? Is it on-path attacks, cross-site scripting, logic bomb, RF jamming, or brute force attacks? What did you choose? Let's find out. 84% of you bounced back from the last question and answered D, RF jamming is what you chose. RF jamming is what you would make the best for that one. Hopefully that's what you chose on this one. On-path attacks, although 10% of you chose that one, would not be one that would be used in this case. We don't commonly see on-path attacks causing people not to be able to connect to some type of wireless technology. Jamming the radio frequencies, that is the RF, is what could cause us to not have access to a wireless access point or a Bluetooth. We have seen this before. I'll tell a story right after this. Maybe some of you can find it online, but we'll step through the other answers. Cross-site scripting helps us gather information from either a browser or a second machine or separate site, but it doesn't prevent 802.11 or Bluetooth devices from working, so that would not be the right answer. Brute force attacks is one where someone is trying multiple options. Usually we see these most commonly for someone who's trying to find a password by reverse engineering or trying every possible combination of password to see if they happen to know what it is. And then logic bomb that nobody chose, 0% chose logic bomb, is usually based on time and day. When that time and day occurs, it sets off a series of tasks, a series of logic that causes things to happen on the network or on a system. So that is the answer we were looking for. RF jamming, 84% of you got that one absolutely right. That's a pretty good choice for this one because RF jamming is one that can create a number of challenges on people's networks. It is a denial of service type situation where the wireless connection simply can't connect because there's so much interference going on right now within those same frequencies. Sometimes we do this to ourselves. Somebody turns on an old microwave oven and suddenly none of your wireless networks work anymore. We've seen that certainly at a number of places, but if it's intentional, then it is jamming. Somebody really trying to get you to not access those systems over a wireless network. There was a case that was, this is from a few years back, and I don't remember the details of it, but I know just enough to remember to tell you the story, which is there was I don't know if it was a hotel or a convention center that was using RF jamming to prevent wireless access from within their facility so that the people that were paying to be on the floor of that particular show had to purchase the wired Ethernet from the organization. I want to say it was a Marriott hotel that got into trouble with this. I don't know that for sure. It was a hotel, allegedly Marriott hotel. There, I've now protected myself. I think that it was though, and that went to court. I think it went to court, or the FCC had a task of going through and figuring out, was this legit? Was it not legit? Were they really jamming? Or they were jamming? That's exactly what they were doing, and it was them trying to make more revenue from their own networking. If you've never participated in a trade show and you were never on the floor, everything on the trade show costs 5 times what it would normally cost. So Google says Marriott, so I was right. Hyatt is what some people were saying. Maybe I was wrong. So there you go. I'm either right or wrong. Again, helpful. More than happy to be here for you. The problem with these is now you've got the FCC showing up. They're not happy with the jamming. You can't do that. This might have prevented some legitimate traffic or emergency traffic from getting out of this facility. Obviously, a significant security and really public safety issue. So it was right to have that particular situation resolved. But if you are someone who is trying to work through this, RF jamming, not a good thing. If you see somebody trying to do RF jamming, that is what we're looking for. We do see this also from time to time at an individual level. These stories do come up in the news. A couple of folks who are really challenged to like each other are jamming the network so that it's really a mess. So don't do this. If you find you're in an organization that's doing RF jamming, you should pull that immediately. That could cost you a lot of money. Not only from fines from the FCC, but it puts you in a liable situation if somebody needs to communicate for safety reasons from that network and you stop them. That would be a big problem. So another one to think about. As I mentioned earlier, the questions we do in the study group are here to help prepare you for the topics and some of the terms that you will find on the exam, but they're not specifically designed to be actual feel or actual format of design of the questions you get on an exam, although some of them tend to be that way. I think this is probably a good example of one. But what I've done is I've gone out to the internet to try to find the best possible set of practice exams that you can use, and I couldn't find any. I could not for the life of me find a set of practice exams I was happy with. They were either out of date, we're using using objectives from last version of the exam or 2 versions ago, or the answers were wrong, or the questions didn't make sense at all. Sometimes the people writing these questions have never worked on a network. They're not technologists, and you end up getting very bad practice questions. And I thought, we need a set of practice questions written by somebody who's been in the industry, written by somebody who's taken these exams, and written in a way that can prepare you for the exam, so you know what you'll run into. That's why I created my set of practice exams. This is a book and a PDF, depending on which format you get, 380 pages long. There are 3 separate 90-question exams. 5 of the questions are performance-based questions. 85 of the questions are multiple-choice-based questions. And all of these are written with the same voice or style, or I've tried to emulate the method that is used to ask questions. But none of these questions you will find on your exam. That would not be ethical at all. Instead, I've given you a reasonable facsimile of exam questions, and of course the same type of topics. And I hope that you find that they're a similar difficulty level. I tried to match that as close as possible. So let's do a question. I've got one from this. We have time for another practice question, right? I've got one here on the screen. Let's do this question that comes directly from my practice exams book. This is from question A28 from that very book, and it has: a company would like to protect the data stored on laptops used in the field. Which of the following would be the best choice for this requirement? Would it be Mac, SED, CASB, or SOAR? Somebody earlier said you wanted more acronyms. I'm more than happy to bring them to you. So the question again asks, a company would like to protect the data stored on laptops used in the field. Which of the following would be the best choice for this requirement? Is it Mac, SED, CASB, or SOAR? So one of the things, because this is a PDF, I mentioned this earlier, is you can annotate what's here. Maybe you have certain things that you'd like to highlight. Maybe you're using this on a tablet and you've got a pen or an Apple Pencil, and you can annotate or write on this. You can absolutely do that. And if you have the digital version, all of these different buttons, these different links on the screen to take you to either the quick answer, which will just tell you whether it's A, B, C, or D, or to the details, will give you a much larger overview of the question and the answer. So instead of going, right now I'm on page 12, but if I want to go to page 66, I could certainly scroll through to page 66. That's certainly an option, but why would you do that? What you want to do instead is simply click the option right here for the details. So let's click that, and it goes right to the details. As always, of course, please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll be able to break through what all these happen to be in just a moment. In fact, we will see it on the screen right now because we jumped right to page 66. Let me do that again. I'm going to go back. I click this where it says the details right there, and it goes to page 66. And so you can see the questions up here at the top and the answers, and it says the answer is B, SED, or SED. That stands for self-encrypting drive. One of the things you'll notice in my practice exams is I try to take every abbreviation and spell it out for you. Now, you probably already knew that that was self-encrypting drive. You already probably knew that Mac was mandatory access control and that CASB was cloud access security broker, but not everyone does. And sometimes it's helpful to see those words pop up. You'll also notice that not only do I give you a description of the correct answer, I never get the correct answer. So I want to give you, I want to bring you into my world where I answered something incorrectly. And if you look at some of those other tests that are out there, they never tell you why the wrong answer is wrong. And that's a great opportunity. If you got the answer wrong, I want to understand why I got the answer wrong. So for every wrong answer in this book, I have written a description of why that is the wrong answer. Now, if you don't even understand the question, or perhaps even some of these answers, I put a link at the very bottom to the video. In this case, it's SY0-601 Objective 3.2 Application Hardening. There's a link that will take you right to the video that describes the information that was contained in this question. And of course, there's a QR code you can simply put your phone up to. If you're using the digital version, you can either click on that. If you're using the physical version, the QR codes are in here as well. So you can click that QR code in the book, and it will take you right to the video associated with that question. There's nothing more comprehensive than this. When you're done going through this question, you can click the back button that's within your PDF reader. You back to where you started, and you can go to the next question on your list. Those are my practice exams. So if you're someone who would like to go through a set of practice exams that are guaranteed to be up to date with the latest exam objectives, that are guaranteed not to have old, outdated information in them, and they're guaranteed to be the right answer, right, and the wrong answers being shown wrong, as odd as it seems to say that out loud, this is a set, one of the few sets that you will find that has anything close to that. All of that's contained within my practice exams. If you get the physical version that I show here, remember you get the digital version for free. They're available on my website. Go to professormesser.com/securitype so you can, of course, work through the details of your practice exams. Might be something you can work with as well. I mentioned over and over during this live stream that the objectives are available and you should be using them. They should be the first thing you go through before you start your studies, and they're a great checklist to use before you schedule your exam, and they're free. That's the crazy part. CompTIA tells you everything you have to know to pass this exam in great detail in these set of exam objectives. Make sure you get these objectives. They are very, very useful. In fact, I didn't have the objectives up on my screen. So let me bring up the 601 objectives so that you can get a feel for what these look like. There it is. So the 601 objectives have everything in here. So for instance, if we go to section 2.1, we need to explain the importance of security concepts in an enterprise environment. We need to know configuration management, including diagrams, baseline configuration, standard naming conventions, internet IP schemas, data sovereignty, data protection, including DLP, masking, encryption, at rest. You can see all the bullets are there. This is just one section of many sections that are in domain number 2. And that is all of domain 1, or domain 2 is these 4 pages of bullets just for the single domain. So if you're trying to figure out, have I studied everything for my exam? Do I know everything I need to know for this exam? The objectives will tell you. They are a fantastic tool, to the point that I will tell you, they say stay so close to these objectives that if you know every bullet that's in these exam objectives, you can explain to either yourself in a mirror or to a third party what that bullet means and how you would use it. If you knew every single one of those in this set of exam objectives, you will very easily pass your exam. That's how accurate these exam objectives are. Make sure you download a copy. I have a link over to the CompTIA website if you visit professormesser.com/objectives, or if you don't want to use that link, go to your favorite search engine, type in CompTIA exam objectives. It'll be the first non-sponsored link that you will find on that particular one. I'm sad we have to say that, but there it is, sort of what makes everything go by. If you're ever somebody working through the details, maybe that will work for you as well. As you may have noticed, we do one of these study groups every month. So I've already scheduled the Security Plus study group for July. It will be happening on July the 20th. I am taking that first week of July off, which is not really off. I'll be working, but that is the July 4th week, and a lot of us are going to be out of the office. So I thought we would not do a live stream on that first week. Instead, we'll do A+ live streams July 11th and 13th, a Network Plus live stream on the 18th, and a Security Plus live stream on July the 20th. If you would like to know when the next live event is going to be, and sometimes these dates will change, I make sure that the calendar is always updated. You can always visit professormesser.com/calendar, and you'll know when the next live event is going to be. Well, we're not done, although we're done with me asking you questions. I also would like you to ask me questions. And that's what we do in the after show. That's coming up next. Stick around for that one. Don't go anywhere. Don't forget that we have our weekly Security Plus pop quiz questions available on Twitter at professormesser.com/Twitter. We also have those available on Instagram and YouTube. You just type in professormesser.com/ the name of the thing. If you really enjoyed this video, we would love it if you give it a thumbs up. We would love it even more if you were to subscribe to our channel. Please consider doing both of those. They're absolutely free, and they really do help us quite a bit. Don't forget about our discounted vouchers, and this comes with my bonus exam hacks ebook at professormesser.com/vouchers. And of course, my course notes and exams. You can follow the link on your screen or simply use the pull-down menus at the top of my website under Security Plus to find my course notes, my practice exams, my success bundles, and so much more. Well, we've got a lot more. Stick around for the after show. I know that many of you have questions you'd like to ask. That's your opportunity. But thank you for joining us in this first hour. We always enjoy doing these live streams. We hope you come back for the July event, and we will have brand new questions for you in that study group. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. Okay, I'm going to take a sip. Okay, let's see now what we can do in our after show. Now, this is our after show. One of the things I like to do in the after show is take questions from the chat room. And this is a great opportunity, I think, if you have questions about Security Plus, you have questions about CompTIA, you have questions about a lot of different things that happen in the industry. Maybe there's a news story in the industry or something you found that we could talk about, or you just like to know about how you should plan for things that you're doing in your career or anything else. You can always ask, certainly, to go through some of those in the after show. There's a lot that we can go through. One of the things that I'll do is you put your question into the chat. Normally I would break this out and make a separate section for the questions, but that makes it a little bit more difficult on my side, ironically, to do it that way. So I'm going to take questions. You just put them into the chat room. If you're on my website at professormesser.com/live, it is the set of the chat that is embedded into the page right there. If you're on YouTube, it is the YouTube chat. It's the same chat in both places. So that's a great place to be able to start. Somebody's working through those. I have a, before we get started with questions, I want to thank Julian in the chat room with the $50 super chat. Julian says, your videos are awesome and helped me pass Network Plus and Security Plus in this month. Boy, you must have been crushing it. As an international student, I found it's hard to get an internship in the U.S. due to citizenship requirements. Let me see if I can change this on the screen. Any thoughts about this? Thank you, Professor Messer. Well, I do have a number of thoughts about this. It is difficult when you go to a different country to work through some of the things that are required for getting internships. There are a series of processes and procedures with the U.S. government that can help you become more available to companies that would like to have somebody work technically within their organization. But the citizenship requirement is an interesting one, especially for an internship. I've worked with a lot of different companies that have had a lot of different interns. Not all of them were U.S. citizens. So it's unusual that you're running into a lot of problems with this. I wonder if it's something that is not really about your citizenship as much as it is them not wanting you to be part of their internship. I wonder if something like that could be going on, because there's nothing in kind of the rules of hiring within this country that would prevent you from hiring someone who is not a U.S. citizen, but there are extra things you need to do to make sure that the proper tax bases and other things are covered for this. So I don't know exactly what is running into this. I'm sort of confused over why this would be an enormous issue, but you're clearly running into it. And I'm open for suggestions. If somebody has been in this situation before, either on the hiring side or on the intern side, I'd love to get your impressions about what might be your biggest problems here and things you might be able to do to get around some of that. I think you go to larger companies first off. The larger companies tend to have a better idea of how to handle these situations because they do it all the time. If you're trying to intern with a smaller company, a small business, anybody less than maybe 25 or 50 employees, you might get a lot of blank stares when instead of them having to learn about what the requirements might be and how to handle that, they perhaps aren't even bothering with it, and they're just deciding to take someone who's an American citizen or U.S. citizen or Canadian citizen or a citizen local to that country for the internship. So that may be the issue that we're running into as well. So perhaps that can help you with some of the things that you're struggling with, and maybe we'll get some other folks talking about this in the chat room too, and we can break this down. Oh, great question also, by the way, and I really do thank you for the super chat as well. Some folks in the chat room also a question. Hey, Professor, I've downloaded your practice exams PDF. Do you have more versions of those test exams or just one version? Right now, we just have one version. It certainly lends itself to make more of these, but writing a single book of practice exams like this takes months of time. So often it's more of a scheduling physics problem than it is with creating more of these. But we are thinking about different ways to provide that. And we would love to have more sets, more editions of these practice exams, because I think they're really valuable, especially if you're studying for your exams. I think this is one of those things that can really, really help you as you step through these. So I want to give everybody as much information, as much study material, and everything else that I can create. We just only have this single practice exams book. I say just, it is chock full, but it is just a single edition at the moment, just so you're aware. Other questions. Let's keep going through this. The questions from here, this is since we're talking about internships and other things. Cameron asks, what do you think about security internships / apprenticeships? I know security does not have many entry-level jobs, but after a boot camp and Security Plus, do you think I should go for an internship? You should go for an internship regardless of whether you've been through a boot camp, whether you have Security Plus or anything else. Internships, we naturally assume the person coming in is not going to have any formal certifications. They're not going to have any formal prerequisites that we've set up for them. They're an intern. They're here to learn. That's the whole point of doing an internship. The important part of this, of course, is that it is a paid internship. You should never be in an internship where you're not being paid by the company. That's the only thing that I think is an important tag to put on here. And I look forward to the cards and letters that I always get when I mention this. But you are absolutely right, Cameron, that the number of entry-level jobs for IT security is much smaller than the available entry-level jobs for all of the rest of IT. That is it seems like that should be obvious, but people seem to take a lot of umbrage with that with me, that I'm saying that there's no possibility you could ever get a Security Plus job right out of school, that there aren't any starting or entry-level jobs out there for IT security, which is simply not true. I've never said that, and of course, that doesn't even make sense for anyone to say that. The Security Plus or the security-related jobs in IT tend to be jobs that are not entry-level by definition. You need a good foundation in networking, a good foundation in operating systems, and you need a good foundation in security to get one of those IT security jobs. But there are entry-level positions for security. It's just relative to all of the other entry-level positions in IT, the number available for security is very small. So this should make you happy if somebody gets a entry-level job in IT security, perhaps working with a security operations center or another one, sort of like a help desk for IT security, if you will. That is an environment that is a security job. And if you happen to get one of those, you've done very well for yourself, because there's not a lot of those out there. So please don't take me the wrong way when I say that the number of jobs available at the entry level for IT security are very small compared to the rest of IT, because that's simply the situation we all find ourselves in. You may find a better path learning about operating systems, learning about networking, and then jumping into security. Everybody has a different path. Everybody has different opportunities available to them. Everybody has a different set of jobs available in your geographical area. So I think that's one you should also consider as you're stepping through this and trying to understand where to go with it, that it's different depending on where you are and what you're doing. But I think you should absolutely go for an internship in security, regardless of what credentials you may earn or the experiences you've already had. The worst they can say is no. So I always tell you, you should not be the one deciding if you get a job or not. And very often we do this to ourselves. We read the job description and we're like, oh, they're asking for something. They say it's a requirement. Although I fit 95% of what they're looking for, there's this one thing they say I must have that I don't have, so I'm just not even going to send my resume in. Why would you do that? You're so close to being perfect for this position. What if nobody else is perfect for this position? What if nobody has the credentials they're asking for? You would be second on the list. So don't ever be the one to decide that you're not good enough for a position, that you're doing your own rejection letter. Have them send you a rejection letter and get ready for the rejection. This is one where I want to say that we should already be ready for the rejection part of it. And if we get the job, it's even better. So have a different opinion. I have a different opinion of that when you start putting those through. And I think it's one we should all be working through. If somebody's trying to work down those jobs and find the right jobs and get into those jobs, you see a job that you think you're qualified for, put your resume in. Let them be the one to tell you no. Sometimes they don't tell you right out, but you'll know soon enough. After 2 weeks, you've heard nothing. That's probably a no. CrashNet with the $10 super chat says, thank you, Professor. Thanks to your videos and notes. I passed my Security Plus last month. I may have done the hard part, but you certainly helped. CrashNet obviously attends my live events quite a bit because I often say, I'm not the one taking the exam. You're the one that has to take the exam. And I got to tell you, that's the hard part. So congratulations on your Security Plus. I'm glad we were able to help in some small way with your studies. I'm glad the information we were able to provide was able to help you with your exam too. And thank you so much for the super chat as well. Let's keep going through questions in the chat room. We've got more here that are available. Other questions are here. I'm going to keep scrolling up. I got lots here that we're working through. Other questions. I think some of you are putting in full multiple choice-based questions into the chat. We won't be doing those either. We don't put copyrighted materials into our live stream, so we won't be doing that one there as well. Other ones that are here, I probably did miss this one. Zero Cool is mentioning in the chat that he provided a $10 super chat. Where'd it go? I don't know, Zero Cool. If I look at my side, I may be able to even tell if it came through as well. Sometimes it's a little slow. Sometimes I don't see super chats show up in the chat either. I think it's more of an issue with the way that YouTube works. And I will tell you, even on my side, it shows none of the super chats in my YouTube console. So sometimes it's just the way it goes. I apologize if it didn't pop up, but I thank you for your $10 super chat just the same. Thank you for doing that, Zero. We sure appreciate it. Other questions. Ben says, hey, you people in the United States, I'm in the UK, and we don't need to know your US stuff, which is probably true, Ben. You probably don't like audits, federal government agencies and how they operate. It's true. You probably don't need to know that if you're in the UK, but you do need to know it if you plan to take the Security Plus exam. Now, the reality is, of course, that we don't always talk to or communicate with organizations that are in our own countries. Very often we are talking with other organizations. I used to work for a company based in California, and I did a lot of work for a company that was based in the UK. So it was helpful for me to understand more about what the requirements were in the UK. This works both ways, of course. The GDPR, for example, we don't care about in the United States. It's not our requirement. That's an EU thing. But in the European Union, in the UK, and other places, knowing the GDPR rules is incredibly important. You have a completely different set of requirements for IT security and compliance and other requirements in your country that we don't have in the US. So there is a little bit of give and take here. So your point is accurate, but for the exam, there aren't that many things in the exam that are exclusive to the US. And even if there is, there may be times in your career where it's helpful to know those things, especially if you happen to be communicating with an organization that is based in a different country. And sometimes it's helpful to know those things that are different and being able to work through those. Other questions. Let's see what else is here. There are really challenges with a lot of people finding internships. This is a follow-up Julian had. He asked the question earlier about internships. I'm seeking an OPT and internship. Seems many of the opportunities are federal related, not a green card holder here, and I probably need to try the commercial sector. I would recommend doing that. If you've spent a lot of time going to federal, it might be an issue. For security at the federal level, we tend to like American citizens being involved and having access to that data. You could probably guess why we would not want to have somebody on site who was not an American citizen rummaging through our data. I think every country would agree with that. And so maybe you can find some flexibility in the commercial sector, probably more flexibility because the data they're dealing with doesn't have to deal with any type of secrets associated with your government most of the time. There are some obvious commercial organizations that deal deeply with private and sensitive government information, but the vast majority of commercial organizations do not. So that's a good recommendation, and something we should think about doing if you're running into problems with federal government organizations. This is a good question from Julio. Says, is it true you get an extra 30 minutes or so in the Security Plus exam if you are from a non-English speaking country? Sort of. Yes, and there are requirements to this. So as many people, you may not realize this question, as I mentioned earlier in the study group, that the Security Plus exam is 90 minutes long. But there are situations that CompTIA understands where you may need additional time. Maybe you have a medical condition that really slows you down being able to read or to see what's on the screen, or English is not your first language and you are in a country where English is the first language. Having extra time can help you get through the exam with the appropriate thing. So I tell people all the time, you should take advantage of that. And there is a page on the CompTIA website that steps through all of these different things that you can do to earn that extra time. And that can really be helpful. For the extra time based on language, you have to be taking the exam in a country where your language, your first primary language, is not the language spoken in that country. And you have to show some documentation around that. Check the CompTIA website. They have an entire page that breaks down for you the details associated with what's required to earn the extra time. And they have a set of forms you fill out. It's the usual stuff you can think about. But you can absolutely get extra time if it's something that those allowances need to be made for the exam. And hopefully, while we're doing that, maybe I can find this page, because it's not the easiest thing to find on the CompTIA website. I'll pop open this. I think what you need to look for, and I spelled it completely wrong, is the allowances. Let's see if we can find the details of this. I think this might be a good one. I think what I did originally to find it was test accommodations. And it is a page. You can just search for this. And it can give you information that can help you find what you need. At the top, it says, testing accommodations for people with disabilities, your questions answered. And it explains what those are, how you would get the accommodation, breaks everything down for you with paperwork you need. So if you search for testing accommodations, CompTIA, you'll find this page or a similar page, and the information on here is pretty accurate and up to date with what you need to know. So that maybe that can help you if you're trying to get a little bit of extra time for your exam. It can make all the difference, and it may be something you really, really need to pass this exam. So I definitely understand that. Other questions. This is from A, who has a $20 super chat. A writes, I got a 1099 job for cybersecurity, 37 hourly. I guess 37 hours in a weekly period. I wrote my own finest and defined my role as cybersecurity manager. I am the only one working there. Will this help my resume a lot? I don't have Security Plus yet. Whether your job is a 1099 means you're acting as a contractor for that organization. This is usually a qualification of somebody who's providing services or products to an organization where you're not an employee of the company. This also means that you don't have a set number of hours. You don't take specific individual tasks from managers there. You're not part of their company. You don't participate in their all hands meetings because you're not part of the all hands. You work for yourself as a 1099 contractor. I will say sometimes people have been set and qualified as a contractor and are hired under a 1099 form, but are really not contractors. They are being treated as employees, which means they are miscategorized in the eyes of the IRS. And that could be some significant problems for the company if the IRS happens to do an audit, because there's taxes the company has to pay if you are an employee and taxes that are paid by you if you are not an employee. So there's important tax implications either way. Make sure you're aware of those. But I don't think whether you are a contract or whether you're an actual hired employee of the company, from the IT perspective anyway, I don't think there's too much of a negative perspective on if you're a 1099. It's just so common in our industry to categorize people that way, either rightly or wrongly, that we just consider it, oh, okay, you did the job, you have the experience, you did it for a year for 1099. That's just as good as working in a hired position as an employee for that year. At least from my perspective, it always has been. And I was a hiring manager for a short period of time until I realized that was not what I wanted to do for a living. But that certainly is something to consider, that when you're applying for these jobs, to let them know, yes, I was 1099. I was hired on as a contractor, but let me tell you the things we did and the things I learned in this position. That's really what we want to know. And I don't think being categorized as 1099 is a negative, generally speaking. I guess some people may really, really, really want employees, but I don't often run into that either. Let's keep going down this list. We'll keep going for these. This is kind of a general purpose request from Lethethu, got that right, Les, who says, do you do any Cisco cert or only CompTIA? I'd love to do some Cisco certs. I love the Cisco stuff. I guess my Cisco certifications I have are now no longer valid. I didn't renew them, but it's such a fun set of tasks to go through. I love the Cisco stuff. I really cut my teeth in networking with non-Cisco equipment. And so when I finally got to be able to take the Cisco stuff, it was fun to learn another manufacturer's technologies to do this. And I think the Cisco certs are very good for networking, but they start as intermediate level certifications. You would not generally just jump into a CCNA as your very first networking cert unless you really wanted to spend a lot of extra time on the fundamentals, because you're going to have to learn those to finally get to a point that you know what you're doing when you're configuring a switch or configuring a router. So I always tell people all the time, it's not, do I take a Network Plus or do I take a CCNA? It's which one does the best for me with this particular path that I'm going down for my career. And some people prefer taking Network Plus first and then moving into the CCNA. Other people like to start with the CCNA because they know they want to be a switch administrator or a router administrator. They want to plan and design networks. So they jump right into the Cisco, but they already know I'm going to have to really spend more time on the fundamentals because I never learned the fundamentals from Network Plus. So just base that extra time on that. I think you do good. A lot of people will say on the internet that just forget everything else. Just go to Cisco, get your CCNA. It's much more valuable than anything else, which is an awful argument, because if that's the argument, why don't you go get your CCIE? It's much more useful than a CCNA. It's much more useful than Network Plus. There's a reason you don't start at the hardest certifications. It's because they're hard. You haven't learned the fundamentals yet. How can you possibly learn what you need to know to pass that exam? Same thing applies for the CCNA. So they are not interchangeable. They are not at the same level. Network Plus is the entry level. CCNA, I would categorize as an intermediate level certification. It's not a simple cert. That's what I would recommend. You have a look at those. Along the same lines is this one from Terrence, who asks, what's the advantage of a CySA Plus over Security Plus? You know, up to this point, it's been difficult to really see the differentiation between Security Plus and the CySA Plus, which is another CompTIA certification that's sort of the next level cert in the security world of CompTIA. So I think CompTIA would like you to do Security Plus, then CySA Plus, and then perhaps CASP or Pentest Plus as the higher level. So if you finish Security Plus, some people think that CySA Plus would be a good next step for this. The problem is that Security Plus used to be the only thing in town. And as you can see now, if you look at my course notes, you know, it's what, 120 pages. It's an enormous cert now. I think what CompTIA would like to be able to do is kind of break this up a bit so that the fundamentals of security are part of Security Plus. That kind of makes sense. A Plus is the fundamentals of computing. Network Plus is the fundamentals of networking. And Security Plus should really be the fundamentals of IT security. But there's a lot in the current Security Plus. There's all these frameworks and command lines, and I have to do memorization of a lot of different topics, which in the world of security aren't necessarily things we run into all the time. In fact, frameworks are something you would probably rarely run into as entry level in the world of IT security. So I think what you'll start to see as the time goes on is a little bit more differentiation between an entry level Security Plus and the next level of CySA Plus. And although we're kind of early in the stages of actually seeing that come to fruition, I would say just kind of watch the way things go in the industry. I think that's probably, although I've not confirmed this with CompTIA in any way, I think that sort of is what they are working towards, is to give you more of a differentiation between them than what exists today. And I think that would make a lot of sense for a lot of people. Other questions. Let's keep going in this list of some of the things people are putting in here. So this is a good one. Bravely asks, are SANS certifications valid in the market? Well, they sure are. I like SANS. SANS has probably some of the most popular high-end security training courses in our industry. There's a lot of courses in security that are entry level, like Security Plus and CySA Plus. But when you get into the higher levels of IT security, there's a completely different set of skills you need to have across a very broad set of topics. And SANS has been around forever. I've been to tons of SANS events, usually as someone who's on the trade floor. Say they have a trade show that they set up along with their training classes. So you go to a training class, there's a 30-minute break. During the 30-minute break, you can go see what all the newest technologies are from all the companies that deal with security. Then you go back to your class. And usually at the end of the week, there's a certification process where you can earn a SANS certification. And they're not only valid in the market, they're well respected in the market. They are very good certifications to have. And generally speaking, they do very good training. So I really like what they've got going on. They got great instructors. It's just a high quality organization. And I've been very pleased with what they've offered so far. I like them. So if you're looking at SANS as an option, make sure that you're doing it for a reason. We don't just want to go get a certification because it's out there. There may be employers who are asking for some of these SANS certs or some of the topics associated with them, and they're great learning opportunities. A lot of these are in person as well. You can go to a trade show. The one that I would always go to was in Orlando every year, and they have them all over the country in different places. You can check the SANS website. I was just out there on the SANS website the other day looking to see when their next in-person event was going to be, because I thought maybe I would want to attend if it's somewhere near where I happen to be. And I love doing that too, is going to these trade shows. You always learn something and you meet somebody interesting, and there's always some fun to be had at these trade shows, especially with SANS. Other questions. Let's keep going down the list of these. This is a pretty good question. Since Danny asked, please, I'm kind of confused about the price of Network Plus. Can you please help me get the actual price? I'm joining from Ghana in West Africa. The pricing for these exams varies widely depending on where you are in the world. And on the CompTIA website, I'm going to try to bring up the CompTIA store, which is store.comptia.org, I believe. Yeah, I got it right. That store, if you look at the top of the screen, you can't see it because my big head's in the way. So let's get that out of the way. You can deal with not looking at me for a moment, right? I think most people could. Right at the top of the screen is the thing that says North America. And if you click on that, it brings up all of these different areas of the world. So you've got North America, South America, Europe, Asia Pacific, Middle East and Central Asia, and Africa. And if you click on one of them, it changes the different countries that are available at the bottom of the screen. If I click Africa, you can see all of the different options there. You mentioned Ghana, so I'm going to choose Ghana on my list, and it moves you to a different page on the CompTIA website. Ghana is considered the emerging store, so you can see the URL is changed at the top to emergingstore.comptia.org. And now all of the pricing in here is for someone who is in Ghana. So the price in US dollars, it's listed in US dollars here, probably because that's by default or it knows where I am. For Network Plus, let's click on that. The price $201 US is what I see on the CompTIA website. You may be able to get different pricing from a CompTIA partner that is in your local geography. I don't know what CompTIA partners are there, but CompTIA does have a list of those on their website, and they may be able to give you a better price on these vouchers than what's available directly on the store. I highly recommend you try to find a CompTIA partner in your country. That's really the best way to find what pricing is available for you and your country on the CompTIA website. And just so you're aware, the voucher you purchase on the CompTIA website for that country can only be used in that country. So you can't go to the US, buy a US voucher, and then be in Ghana and use that US voucher. It won't work. And there's lots of reasons for that. It deals primarily with with revenue recognition and the conversion of fiat between different countries. And there's lots of tax implications from that and requirements of trying to move money out of countries and back into the countries. It's complex and it's not easy to deal with. That's why they separate a lot of those things out. So I would recommend you have a look at what options might be available for you in your geography and make sure you buy the right voucher for where you happen to live. That's probably the most important takeaway there. Other questions. Let's keep going down this list. These are interesting. And here's a really good example of running into these kind of tax problems in different countries. Giuliano says, I'm Argentinian doing the citizenship in Italy. I can't work for my country because the taxes are most expensive for the company, and I can't work in Europe. Are there freelance jobs for no experience, or there are freelance jobs for no experience? This is kind of a challenge when you get into these situations especially if you're working on getting a job in a different country. It can be challenging, not just for somebody in IT, but just somebody in general. There are all these different rules for somebody who's outside the country. There's different taxing requirements, and it puts an additional burden on the employer to be able to provide the right things needed to bring someone on board from a different country. And some employers just decide they're not going to do that. They're not going to go through those extra steps, so they're not going to hire anyone. So you could possibly run into that. There are freelance jobs out there, even if you don't get experience from them. But I would think a freelance job, you're getting experience if you're working a job, if you're doing something for somebody. So there may be jobs out there. In the US, I know we have a number of freelance sites that you can sign up to, and you can take jobs that people post there and be able to help people out with problems, and they'll pay you. So those types of Fiverr or other types of websites that do that might also be in your country. It might be in Italy. It might be in Argentinian person in Italy may be able to take advantage of that. So I think there's things you could do, whether you're from Argentina or from Italy or from Portugal or from Spain or anywhere in the EU or other parts of the world. There may be websites that can give you some of that experience without working directly for a company in that country. And any work you do is considered experience. Absolutely. Let's keep going through this list of questions. I want to get as many as I can in before we run out of time. Let's keep going down this. I have a number of questions I'm sort of sifting through as we look at them. I hope that's okay. It's easier for me to sift through these than it is to jump back and forth to different windows, which is how we were doing it originally or most recently. Along those same lines, since we're sort of talking about different countries and what they're doing, can I get a remote job with Security Plus from outside the USA? Well, you certainly could if you have the right experience and people are looking for that. But again, you run into those problems where, especially on security-related jobs, hiring somebody from out of the country may be a security concern, and it may be a tax-type situation that needs to be considered. So it may not be as easy as getting a job in your own country. There are challenges with that. It's not as simple as you might think. So I would highly recommend you talk to some of the employers about how they handle people who are from another country, and maybe there are also some videos and other blog postings out there that might help you through the process. There's things you may be able to do for all of that. Let's keep going through this list. I'm going to see what other things might be on here. So this question is from the Cyber Brotherhood. Let me see if I can hit the right button here. There we go. I bought the voucher, but I don't see anything regarding the exam. Should I just schedule the exam and that's it? Well, depending on where you bought the voucher from, it takes a little bit of time to get that voucher to you. If you look at my website, I tell you in the terms and conditions that it could take up to 24 hours to get a voucher to you. In reality, I generally will process these twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, sometimes in the middle of the day if it's a very busy set of vouchers going in and out, just so people can get them relatively quickly and that I can get them off my list of things to do. I love the checklist. Nope, that's done, that's done, that's done. So it's nice to get those out the door. But sometimes it takes a little bit of time before the voucher is available. If you're wondering, what are these vouchers? How do you use them? What are you talking about? If you go to the Professor Messer website, we'll bring this up on the screen so you can kind of have a look at what I am talking about. Right on my homepage, if you scroll down a bit, there's a section here for more information, and I have a link there for step-by-step exam registration process. So this is a step-by-step, starting with step 1, step 2, step 3, etc. That can, well, thank you for the Tommy Bahama ad at the bottom. Let's see if we can get rid of that real quick. There we go. And you can see all the different steps you go through, page by page by page. I went through the entire registration process for you so you didn't have to, and documented what it looked like and what the different options and things you should add to that screen. Notice that there are a number of steps. How many steps are in here? Scroll, scroll, scroll. 11 steps. And only in the last step do you ever put down the voucher code. I even put a red box around it so you could find it easily. So you go through this entire process of scheduling your exam, but you have to make sure you have your voucher code available because you put that in at the very end. Even though it tells you you need to pay $246 in this example, you put in your voucher, that goes to zero. You've paid for your exam with the voucher, and now you're locked in because you've already in these previous pages, you've selected the exam, the location, the time, and everything. So if you want to know the process and how that works, it's all on my website, the step-by-step CompTIA exam registration process. That may be something that can help you too. I created that because so many people were asking, I got my voucher, now what do I do? Because they really don't show you a lot of detail on the CompTIA website. So that might tell you what you could do with that voucher once you get it. Sometimes people need a voucher quickly, and just send me a note. Sometimes I can get them out quickly. Sometimes I can't, but I'll tell you if I can or not, just so you're aware. So this is a challenge. Here's the challenge. Tony says, hey, is taking a CompTIA exam with a VPN a recommended option? I'm in the U.S. I have a voucher purchased in the UK. Oh, Tony, you've now created a problem for yourself. I will tell you, to my knowledge, and this is in no way, this may not even be accurate at this point, and I'm certainly not encouraging you to do anything like this, but the way that CompTIA determines where you are is not, or has not traditionally been based on your IP address. They've traditionally looked at your registration address. So usually that's your home address. Where do you live? And if you sign up for an exam and your address is in the US, you need a North America voucher. If you sign up for an exam and your address is in the UK, you need a UK voucher. Do with that information as you will. I'm not telling you to do anything. You do what you want. I think it's risky to use a voucher from another country when you're not in that country. So there is a risk associated with that. And although the terms and conditions, since we're talking loopholes, the terms and conditions of the voucher say that you cannot sell the voucher to someone else. However, there's nothing in the voucher key that can tell CompTIA that the voucher was sold by a third party. It's the same voucher code. So if you have a UK voucher that you can't use, your safer bet is to give or to sell that voucher to someone else and then just buy a voucher in the United States. I think that's your best bet. It seems that's less risky. Although technically it violates the terms and agreements of the voucher, there's no way to track that. So it's really, they are giving you that term and condition based on the faith that you're not going to do that. There you go. So that's just not how it works. That is really what they do with that. Maybe that can help you, maybe it can't, but there are people that have sent me notes that say I was able to do this and how I was able to do it. It's just I don't recommend doing that because of the risk involved, but some people have had it work. And I think generally the price is about the same between those vouchers anyway. Adam is working hard to be my new best friend, who says, have you always been great at public speaking? Public speaking is a difficult thing to do. I am lucky that some of the jobs that I have had were with companies that invested in their employees and sent us to training classes on how to speak in front of people. I was working primarily as a systems engineer at that point. I believe I was with Network General at the time, and they were very big on employee training. And they took all of their systems engineers, because whenever you go to these meetings with a technical company, it's usually two people that walk in representing the company. There's a salesperson, do with them as you will, and then there's the technical person. They usually have those two people at a minimum, is the person who gives you the price and the person who makes the thing work. So the way the meetings usually go is the salesperson will stand up and say, thank you for inviting us in. My name is Bob Salesperson. I represent this company. Today, we're going to tell you all about our new products. James, take it away. They sit down. They talked for 37 seconds, and then you have to talk for an hour. And it's usually about why this product is better than anything else, the problems that it solves, and then maybe a demonstration of what you're doing. So we would often find ourselves doing these long meetings, an hour at a time. We go from company to company. In a single day, we might present 4 times in front of 4 different people. We might be invited to a trade show. We might speak in front of 500 people. And the company wanted us trained on some of the best practices and the techniques you can use for public speaking. If you have an opportunity to do this, it is a great skill to have. We tend to do a lot of presentations in our industry. Being able to communicate well with others is a very important business skill. It's a very important technical skill. And we don't often talk enough about that. There's that probably correct story that mentions that people hate public speaking. If you took a poll of everybody, of 100 people, you will find the majority of them would just prefer dying straight out than speaking in front of a bunch of people, which means that at your funeral, the people speaking at your funeral are probably more unhappy than you are at your own funeral. That's how much they hate public speaking. So I think the more comfortable you get with it, it takes a lot of time. It takes an involved set of testing yourself, checking yourself, recording yourself, understanding things you should be changing. And if you go back and look at earlier videos, my 601 training course for A+, for example, there's a lot of verbal crutches that I use, which are phrases that I use over and over again without any real reason for that phrase being in there. I work really, really hard at not having a lot of ums and ahs and ers and dead space. That's important. But I think most of the time you're training yourself on what you're going to say next as you're saying the thing now. Of course, my benefit to say whether that's something that's good or not, when I'm making my videos, I often will do a single slide in about 3 or 4 takes. So it's never perfect. It's never going to be perfect. I'll say it and then I'll think, I could have said that better. Let's do it again. And we'll do it again. And then at the end, I edit together the best parts of what I did. And it looks like I did everything perfectly from the beginning, when in reality, it was a disaster from the beginning. I just parsed it all together. And to you, everything looks great. That's the benefit of video. But when we're on the live stream, that's sort of the problem. You really do have to know what you're doing on the live stream, because that's when you run into problems. This is a pretty good one. Also, this is Ishan says, hi, Professor. I'm having trouble staying consistent to study every day. Do you have any tips for this? I do. You sort of have to set your study time up as a scheduled thing, usually at a standard place or standard way of doing it. Some people do it on their drive into work and back home. Some of them do it when they're at the gym. Some people put the kids to bed and then they have an hour where they can read the book. That's an hour. Some people think, well, that's not enough time. It takes months to get through this. Well, it does, but you do it an hour at a time, because that's how much time you have. Whenever I'm studying for a certification exam, it takes me months, much more. I think if the average for Security Plus is somewhere in the 2 to 3 month time frame, mine always takes twice as much. So I can expect that it's going to take me 6 months to study for a certification like that, because I just don't have the extra time to put into it. But everybody's different. Some people will have all time during the day. They can sit at the table, read through everything, and they can get everything done in a matter of weeks. That's not me. That's not most people. So I would recommend that if you're struggling with this, you need to set up some standard timeframes, locations, where every day you already have blocked off this time to do it. Now, I realize everybody's life isn't really that well structured, that some days you may be working one schedule, some days you may be working another one. So maybe that's one where it's the drive to work, it's the commute, it's the gym, it's something else. I think that's another way to look at it. Either way, just keep going through the exam objectives. That's what you just keep checking them off. And you keep going through them. And if you have to go back and study some more, go back and study some of the things you missed. Keep going through that list. Eventually, you will get through all of them. So I highly recommend that. It's good to have a standard, something you could in your calendar or in a standard time during the day where you're always doing that. And once you get into it, where every day you know you're going to sit down and go through this content, it becomes a lot easier than just sort of doing it when you may have time. Because that really is very ad hoc. It's very chaotic. It doesn't put your mind in the right place for studying. You're inconsistent over the days you're doing it. You really do need to add some structure to it. You have a calendar in your phone. You have an alarm on your phone. You have all these things you can use to schedule yourself. It's time to take advantage of those. Use some of those tools that are in your mobile device. That's what I would recommend. Adam asks, hey, so you were a technical sales rep? The correct term is a systems engineer. I guess some companies call it a sales engineer, which is close enough. I was not on the salesperson side. I was on the technical side. So I was the person that stood up and talked about how can we make this work in your environment? What is the implementation process? What are the problems you're trying to solve? And then how does this work? Does it work? Can we plug it in and see it do the things you want it to do? And that's what my responsibility was, is to know everything I could possibly know about that product. And if anybody had any questions, they wanted to see it do anything, I was the person that had to make that happen. So that's a lot of technical knowledge, and there's extensive training you have to go to and through to be able to be ready for walking into a customer and doing something like that. I worked for a lot of different companies. I worked for Network General, where we had a lot of network management and packet capture products. I worked for Network Associates, where it was a ton of firewalls, intrusion prevention, antivirus, and other security tools along with that. We had help desk, we had sniffers, we had all kinds of different products there. PGP. It was a great time. And then ended up finally, my last position working for a third-party company was Palo Alto Networks. So I represented their line of next-generation firewalls. And that was also a lot of fun because that was a technology nobody'd seen before. And I got to be kind of on the front end of the technologists that were bringing that into the field and showing people this new security technology that up to that point had never existed. Where else are you going to be able to do something like that but in IT? It was a great time. Had a lot of fun. Met some amazing people, and that's I would in an instant go back and work for Palo Alto Networks if this whole thing falls apart and the place gets set on fire and the internet falls apart. I can always go back and do something like that. It was always a lot of fun. to be able to do that. I don't have any plans to do that, by the way. I like this. I'm going to keep doing this. We're going to keep the internet running to make that happen. As long as you're watching, I'm going to keep making videos. More things. Let's keep going through this list. I know I'm at the top of the hour, but we might be able to fit in a couple of extra ones that come in here. So I think I can fit another couple there. So I don't want to put this question up on the screen, but I want to really check this. There's a question that came up about, this is from RJ, who really talked about the integrity of the exam process. There was another question about this on earlier that talked about the integrity of the examination process. So if you were to take an exam at home, there is a set of requirements you have to set up for your desk. So that's not my desk. This is my desk. There we go. So my desk, this would not work for an exam. You only can have one monitor. You cannot have all of this other equipment here. I certainly can't have my phone in front of me. You have to have everything unplugged except one of these monitors. I probably have to go somewhere else to take my exam, or at a testing center, which is really my first recommendation. Just go to a testing center. But if you're at home, they have to set up your house as a secure environment. And so there are rules and regulations about what you can have on your desk, what you cannot have on your desk. You have to have a camera. They have to be able to hear you through a microphone. You have to have a certain operating system. You have to have certain ID requirements that are different than the ID requirements you would have if you went to a testing center. So it's very different when you're taking your exam at home versus taking your exam at a testing center. So make sure you're familiar with all those. There's a checklist on the CompTIA website about taking your exam at home and what you need to know. I think that's really important. Also, and a lot of people don't realize this, when you finish the exam and you get a notice that says, hey, you passed, congratulations, CompTIA then looks at your test. They put it through a series of evaluations to make sure that your test is not in some way skewed or influenced by non-official study materials. I'll just keep it very generic. And there are times when people have passed their exam and they've received a message that says, we know we told you you passed, but we went and looked at your answers and we don't think your exam was legitimate and we're revoking that certification. So I tell people, don't be that person. Study from materials that have been specifically identified as legitimate exam study materials, and make sure that you're not going to run into that situation where you pass the exam, but now CompTIA thinks perhaps you did not study properly for this exam, or there was some problem that was introduced during the exam process that caused them to think there might be some funny business going on. So I highly recommend that. I have been personally involved in cases of this where somebody has taken their exam and there's been some funny business going on, and I had to contact CompTIA, who's had to intervene in that and make sure that the exam process maintained that integrity. It's very important to the entire process. So I highly recommend you look and make sure that all of your study materials are legitimate from well-known and well-respected study organizations. And if you don't know, ask me. I'll tell you whether that's legitimate or not. There's already been, there's folks all the time that ask me, should I use this website? Have you looked at that website? Doesn't that look sketchy? That's because it is sketchy. Don't go to that website. That happens all the time. And I don't want you to be in a position where you study all this time, you walk in and take the exam, and then your exam is revoked because of something CompTIA found with the information that you studied from. That would just be painful. I would hate to see that. Do not let that happen to you. This is probably a good one to finish up on from Jimmy, who says, hey, Professor, do you play any video games, have hobbies? I write a lot of content for the internet. That's my hobby. I do play like an hour of, right now it's Diablo 4 because it just came out. An hour of that at night. I'm still not through the campaign. That's how slow. The amount of time I have to do anything at night is 1 hour. So am I studying for something? Am I writing something? Am I playing a video game? Am I talking on the phone to my parent? What am I doing? Going through that process. So I do occasionally hop on the Xbox. I prefer using a console, and I fight with my my grown children about this who are PC gamers. And I tell them all the time, you can throw that PC away. It's not as good as an Xbox. And I do that really just to bother them because it's not true. But I like sitting back when I'm gaming and not sitting forward when I'm gaming. So that's why I like a console so much. But I look forward to your cards and letters there. We can all fight over that one on the Discord, which would be a great place for you to go. There were some folks in the chat room who were asking, how do we get to this Discord? You go to professormesser.com, and at the top of the website, it would be nice if I brought a copy of my website up on the screen so you could see this. So go to my website, and at the upper right, I'm going to take my head out of the screen again. There we go. So in the upper right, you have all these little buttons. The button you're interested in is the last one on this list. And if I mouse over, you can kind of see it says Discord underneath. That's the link to Discord. We got Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube right there. So those are all the social medias where you can find us. Just click the last one for Discord, or simply type into your browser, professormesser.com/Discord, and it will get you right there. No problem. That's probably the easiest way to do it. If you're running into a problem there and it's not getting you into the Discord for some reason, you can contact the Discord support folks. They will be glad to do that as well. So that might help you as well. And I think I've got the links also in the YouTube video description of this video. So there's a few places you can go to find all of those things. Well, that was a great Security Plus study group. Thank you so much for attending in the first hour and helping me go through those questions. We'll, of course, have plenty more in July. Make sure you make a note of our next live event there for security. It's always a lot of fun. And thank you for your questions in the second hour and your the super chats that have come through. You were so generous today with the super chats. Thank you so much for your support of what we do here. You really are paying it forward for the next group of folks that are coming through to learn their A+, their Network Plus, their Security Plus. And as I said, we'll just keep doing this until you're tired of watching them. Hopefully will never happen. We'll just keep making these videos, get the content you need to earn those certifications, get a job, get a better job. One of the best ways to do it in IT is to get those certifications. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. Thanks, everybody.